Hi, this is Liz, and welcome to my podcast, Spiritually Speaking with Liz. I've got an absolute treat for you today. I've come out of hiding especially for this lady because this book is going to blow your socks off. It did mine. I'm with the fabulous Alisha Das, and she is an international known spiritual teacher and angel expert. She bridges the mystical experience with grounded transformation, and her work has been featured across many TV network shows, the HuffPost, the Shift Network. She's even been in Vogue magazine with angel numbers, which I think is pretty cool. She's also the founder, this doesn't get said a lot, and I think it's really lovely that you do this. She's also the founder and facilitator of Soul Dance, one of Los Angeles's longest running ecstatic dance events, with all 100% of proceeds donated to charity, which I think is a really lovely thing to do. So oh, sorry, and let's see, I told you I was getting excited. The reason why she is here today is because she has just released the first of her two books, and it is Your Angelic Ancestry. Discover your angelic name, heritage, and higher purpose. So, Alicia, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be with you, Liz.
I'm really excited for you to be here. So, I'm going to go with a little bit of groundwork first, so other people that don't know you can understand who you are and what you do. So, you
Okay.
came from a very science-based background, didn't you? You had your parents are doctors, and so it was all very what I would call as the left brain world.
hmm
So, how did the left brain world get you into the angels? What happened?
Well, yes, it's an excellent question. I started hearing the language of the angels speaking to me in a different language when I was 4 years old. And when you're a child, you don't question things as much. But what it did is it gave me this clairvoyant sight, and I started telling my mother and people around me things I couldn't know about them. And in rural Indiana in those days, it kind of frightened them. So I shut down my sight until I learned to open it but keep quiet about it. And then when I left home is when I really had a full archangelic awakening, heard my angelic name, which really started me hearing the language in earnest and connected to my angelic ancestry and started sharing this work with others, which I've been doing now for 35 years.
Fabulous. So, what would you say to somebody, just as a tangent,
Mhm.
in this world, it's very split. Or well, yeah, it is very split, but there's a lot of people that they're stuck in this. It's all about numbers. It's about facts. It's about having to be better at things, having to climb the career ladder, having to
Yeah.
juggle a million things at once. How would you say to somebody like that who has their interest piqued by the angels or anything metaphysical, how can they make that jump from the left brain to the right brain?
Well, it really is very much my story because, as mentioned, I was pre-med, and everybody in my family is very scientific. So I would say work with that tendency, not against it. So my doctorate is in spiritual science. I like to see measurable results. I wanted to see that what I was doing was helping people, was transforming them. I wanted to see measurable results. So I allowed my mind, and I would say this to anybody it's not a bad thing to be wanting empirical evidence. But the mind is a fantastic servant, terrible master. Because of course the spirit and the invisible, and it is going to come to us. It's not like I expected to start hearing angels speaking to me when I was a child and then through my life. So it's go beyond the mind. And how do you do that? Well, breath is a very immediate way to do that. A little bit of meditation. For those with very active minds, which mine is very active. Doing some sort of meditation with movement can help because it distracts, even if it's just subtle hand mudras, right? It distracts your mind, kind of tricks your mind into quieting while you start focusing on what you see and know. And that is an advantage of working with archangels, which is working with God. It's not about praying to angels, it's about praying to God, Spirit, the universal life force. And the angels will amplify our prayers. And the big thing is help us perceive Spirit much more tangibly in a way we can perceive and receive and trust. And so I would say, don't fight against your mind. Don't make it wrong. It's not wrong. It's a great servant. Just don't make it the master. You know, even Einstein, who had a brilliant mind, and I like brilliant minds as much as anybody, said, I want to know the mind of God. I want to know the mind of God. So at some point, the mind will quiet. Angels can help that. And then you start to be aware of spiritual precepts, spiritual presence well beyond the mind.
Good answer. I like that. I think everything always comes back to the breath, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does.
Something you just mentioned there, and I'd like you to sort of clarify it for people. Do you have to believe in God per se to believe in the angels?
Absolutely not. And you know, there was a recent study by again, I did warn you that I am a bit of a nerd. A recent study by the Associated Press and the University of Chicago, very clinical, you know, scholarly study, not woo-woo. And what they found is, this is recent, it's 2023, 69% of, those in North America, of US citizens, believe in angels. That is more than believe in God.
Wow.
It was somewhere in the 50% believe in God or even a little bit less. So there are folks who do not believe in God, higher power, but they do believe in angels, right? And so, you know, you don't have to believe in God and spirit you to believe in angels. You do have to believe that there is an invisible presence, right? Because they're not, you don't see them in the physical realm. You can, but very rarely. No, so um, you do have to surrender the mind a bit to perceive angels, but you don't have to believe they don't even, they would even say you don't have to believe in them. Don't believe in anything. Experience it first, and then when you experience it, then you start to believe.
Have you actually seen angels?
All the time.
Wow.
Yes, all the time. But I think I'm not unique in that. I think we can all see angels. It's just, and I know we can, and I've worked with countless people over many decades to perceive angels. So not just see, because some of us are much more prone to visions and to see. Some of us might sense them. Some of us might feel goosebumps or a presence. Some of us might just know them. Some of us hear them. So however you know spirit or God or even love, right? You can't taste love. You can't point to it and go, there's love, but you know love because you've experienced love. It's the same with angels. You open yourself, it's subtle. Trust your spiritual sensing is subtle. You're not going to hear them like you hear my voice or see my image. You're going to see them inwardly. And once you perceive them, then you start to perceive them more and more. So, yes, I've seen them, experienced them since, as mentioned, consciously as a young child. My first memory was around 3 or 4, and that was for a very prolonged period of time. And then ever since then, and especially when I started working with people. So I see them all the time. I experience them all the time. I'm not always focused on them because I'm paying bills or, you know, being with my kids or running in nature or whatever. But we can all see them. We can all sense them. I am not special. The only difference between me and others is I started talking back to them in their own language.
That's the key. Do you know that's the key? In all meditations and things that, I have some really vivid, I'm very clairvoyant, so I'm very visual. So I have some
Mhm.
very vivid things happen. And I've like a couple of very spiritual friends, I'll say, oh, this happened. And they'll say, so did you ask them why, or did you ask that? And I go, no. And for so long I didn't ask because you're in such awe, aren't you, that you're like, oh, wow,
Mhm.
that you don't think to be able to, that this is interactive, and
Yes.
it is a, a, an interaction, which we'll get to in a second.
It is an
Um,
interaction. It's a conversation. You know, one of my favorite, my podcast friend, meaning like we've been on tons of podcasts together, and I love interviewing him, is Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God. And that's the thing is people don't realize it's a conversation. Yes, pray to God. And yes, hear God. Angels. Angels are one with God, right? They play for the same team. But also talk to them.
absolutely. Before I go into the book,
Mhm.
I'd like you to tell your story of what happened when you were 24. So you've alluded to the fact that when you were 3 or 4 that you knew that it was angelic presence and that you heard
Mhm.
the language. So
Mhm.
tell me, well, tell the audience what happened when you were 24.
Yeah, so when I was 24, I had moved into an ashram. I had been an actress and a model, and but I at 23 I moved into an ashram, and I was really on my spiritual path in earnest. I'd been in many different spiritual paths, and one hadn't really landed fully. And when I began my spiritual path in earnest, I couldn't go back to acting, modeling, and I did here and there because that was the only way I knew how to make a living. But I took my first and my last angelic workshop. I only did one, and then I started facilitating them myself. Not because I'm special, because I was called to, but I heard my in this workshop we were to hear and to share our angelic name. And when I heard my three angelic names, which are like a first, middle, and the last name, right? This portal opened and I felt like a million angels joined me in the room and I lost all sense of the room and I entered the angelic realm, but I entered really the realm of God and I heard millions of angels singing. I heard the language, the angelic language, then completely. And it really was this awakening that transformed me. And when you have that kind of experience, you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unhear it. And I couldn't go back to my prior life. I kind of tried, but really all I really cared about was tuning into that presence. And so I started taking long walks by the ocean and experiencing the angels everywhere. And and it was really the angelic language that really opened me up the most. Once I started hearing that language, then I could speak to them in their language and they would read the higher records for me, Akashic and the Nakal records, higher records. And then I started working with people at first for free. I was an ordained minister by this point, but I was equally committed to my Eastern path of mysticism and meditation. I'm half English, half Indian, hence my name, Intas, very Indian name, but my mother's platinum blonde, looks like you. And so I'm passionate about bridging the religions. And of course, angels do that. Angels are all through Christianity, through the Kabbalah, through Judaism, through Islam. The Archangel Gabriel dictated the Quran to Muhammad in a beautiful language. I think that was the angelic language. He was an illiterate man, right? It was a different language. And they're through Hinduism and Buddhism. They really bring us together in a world that wants to divide us. They really bring us together. And so once I had that experience, that really began my life's work. And I haven't stopped it since.
So explain what is somebody's angelic ancestry?
So the angelic realm is a very, very almost unfathomably ancient realm. It's trillions of years older than Earth than the physical realm. Many spiritual teachers call Earth a latter-day experiment. You can kind of feel it. It's a little rough around the edges, and so we souls lived as angels, right? We angels who evolved into archangels, but it was taking millions of years, right? Because the angelic, there's no time, there's no space. You're one with God. You're in divine remembrance. It's beautiful, and you don't grow nearly as fast as you do here because here is difficult compared to that. So, in a wild act of faith, these angels who had evolved to archangels started incarnated once this planet was incepted, which is very new compared to that realm, started incarnating here to learn more about free will. See, angels are in a collective, they don't have free will. when they evolve to an archangel is when they have individual souls. The difference between archangels and those of us who are archangels in the flesh is archangels are always in contact and awareness of their souls. For me, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but for me, sometimes I'm aware of my soul and sometimes I'm aware of my mind or my unconscious or my emotions, right? Or I'm hungry or whatever. I'm not going, oh, we're all God and we're all one. Archangels are always aware of their soul. So those archangels started incarnating onto earth to learn more about free will, but we had to forget the angelic realm, right? There's no time, there's no space, there's no bodies that age or that you have to lug around. You don't have to worry about money. Very different. And we come here and we're like, oh my God, I want to go home, right? So we had to forget it. But now we're in this wondrous time where the portal is open between the angelic and the human, and the realms are merging. And we can remember our angelic ancestry, who we were as an archangel, and even our name and our purpose to bring it all present, to bring more heaven on earth. It's not about going, we're not going to go back there, right? We're going to bring that here and now reap the blessings of angels to learn more, to be more in timelessness, to be more in infinity, to remember God more easily and naturally, like an angel.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense. So we just had a really busy time arranging a yoga day with lots going on. And then 10 days later, my husband and I just went away for a few days.
Mhm.
And I got an email, and I don't check my emails when I'm away, but I got an email come from your agent, and it said, would you like to interview? And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't do it without research. So I said, maybe when the book's out, or maybe you could send me a couple of chapters. And bless her heart, she sent me the manuscript straight back and I was just like, oh my God, this is my holiday reading. I've got 3 days. Come on, let's get down to this. Um, so it was divine timing, of course. And
Yes.
it was just it, I told one of my friends and she said, this book has been written for you. And it feels like that when you read it. When
Mhm.
you're ready for it, when you read it, you feel it.
Yes.
Um, and so I've got a very well trained husband, very patient husband that I always get up early and I love to have cacao and then I'll go sit and meditate. So it was great weather, so I was going and sitting out in this little garden, um, and thinking like, whoa, this is great. And so I was reading your book and then going, and I love that it's interactive. So
Yes.
you're telling us the stories, then you give us a meditation. So it feels like you're really guiding us through, like you're working with a teacher rather than just reading, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um, and so, I'm sat really, really getting into this. And then it came to, and I'm like, but I want to know my name. But I want to know my name. I want to know it now. I want to know it now because ever the impatient. But the grounding of all the first six, it's chapter 6, isn't it, that we get to know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first 5 chapters were really, well, I found them really fascinating. And so I read them really quickly because I was just like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And the angels, she says, only came to me a year ago. They came to me at birth, which I only remembered through a belief coding session last year.
Beautiful.
And then a friend had moved into a new home and said she wanted to do blessing in it. And I'd always done the shamanic stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I was there with all my stuff and I was like, but this is what I would do. What would you do? And she
Yes.
said, I'd call in the angels. And I was like, oh, okay then. So let's call in the angels. And I said, well, I can't do it because I don't know how. I said, but you do it. And so she called in the 4 archangels from the directions
Hmm.
and something just clicked that I was like, oof. And then we were stood. I was drawn to stand in right in the centre of the home is the fireplace, and I said to her about lighting a candle here, and it just felt like whoosh, like they were all there. And so I thought, I'm going to do the, call in these directions with the archangels instead of doing what I've been doing shamanically. And woof, that really took me to a level. But then getting my angelic name was, I can't even explain it. I know what you mean now. It is just so empowering. I did it, got the name. It took a little bit of, I got the syllables, but I was like, no, it's not right. No, it's not
Mhm.
right. Okay, just go away from it and come back to it. Then I'd come
Mhm.
back to it. No, something's not right. I know. And I just put a letter in, and then it
Mhm.
became alive to me.
Wow, yes.
And I went for a walk in the woods. And so light language has been coming through for me, which I've not
Mhm.
shared with anybody because everybody thinks, oh, woo woo, she's lost it. And so
Mhm.
it has been coming through for me. So I went into the woods and I thought, I remembered what you'd said about invoking, calling your name out
Mhm.
loud if you're on your own and really
Mhm.
bringing it in.
Mhm.
And it felt like everything went still. And then just this breeze went around me. And then I just started this light language and it went on and on. And where normally it would just be short, like 4 or 5 sentences and we're done, it just went
Mhm.
on and on. And I was walking and I was getting more and more it's like an exciting, it's ecstasy, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's
It is.
that feeling.
Mhm.
And it was just incredible. So thank you for that.
Ah,
Really, thank you for that. I found that really mind blowing, and I'd encourage you guys to read the book. And you're going to have the benefit of actually having you read the meditations. I had to record mine into my phone and do it
oh,
myself.
wow. Well, they are up now. So there's that QR code in the where's my book? Oh, there's the QR code. I would love for you to do this because I think it'll be nice for you. There's the QR code in the
Right.
book now, and and the site's up where all the meditations are recorded. So you can I'd recommend everybody listen to the meditations rather than read them. I mean, they're in the book because it's a book, but it's hard to read because again, we have to get beyond our mind. So I don't think you need to do the ones that you've already done, but because and you have your name, which is gorgeous, and I love your story. Thank you so much. That's why I wrote the book, and I did write the book for you. Your friend's accurate. I did, and I can't. I have to tell you honestly, I've heard that from several people. Like you wrote this book for me, and I'm like, I did. I did write it for you, except that I didn't write the book. The angels wrote the book. I wrote it in concert with them, but all of it came, I would get down on my balcony. I had to write the book outside in nature. Nature informed it. I would get down on my balcony and give it up to the angels, and I would speak the language, the angelic language, which you're calling light language, which is gorgeous. And then then they would disseminate. They would give the book to me, and then some of it is direct angelic messages. That's directly how they spoke, because angels speak rather formally, and it's very profound. So if the whole book was that, it'd be a bit hard. It'd be, a bit, it'd be a lot for us to read. So some of it is direct, and that's the messages that are in italics, and then a lot of it, then I took and made very accessible, and I kept going. Okay, we got to make it accessible, and I would tell stories, and all true stories from people who've done the work, and so they made it accessible, so it's pretty easy to read, and then, yes, the meditations and the activities are all now recorded. So it makes it very much interactive. That was my intention with it.
Yeah, that's good. And I always think hearing hearing the meditation spoken by the author is
Mhm.
more potent.
Agreed, agreed. And it's interesting there is an audiobook too. And when I was recording the audiobook, like I would almost fall out of my chair sometimes because like in the studio, because the angels would just come through, and there are different angels that were moving through me as it was read. And in the meditations, it very much was a surrendered, like just allowing them to speak through.
So because I'm new to not new to the spiritual world, I've been doing this like over 30 years, but
Wow.
and that's what I mean. I'm a latecomer.
You're
I'm
not
a
a
late
latecomer
I'm
at
a late
all. It's
I feel
just
like
you're a perfect timing comer.
yeah, exactly. So is light language and angelic language the same thing?
They're both glossolalia, which is speaking in tongues,
Mm.
right? So they're both languages of the spirit. The angelic is the language the angels speak if they were human. So, like, I can hear it, I can speak it, but it's as close as I get in a human tongue to them. And then I can hear the great archangelic language is a little different. Usually, light language, and it would depend on what one, is meaning by light. Light language is language of other realms. It might be, could be the divine mother language. It could be the day, and I do hear other languages besides the angelic. That's the one I hear most because it's who I am. But you can hear the language of, you can go out and for a walk in nature and hear the devas, the nature spirits, singing the plants taller. You can hear, ascended master speaking. So to me, light language is quite literally language coming from light, from essence. And I think it very much comes to us depending on what our spiritual heritage is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolute
So the
sense.
angelic is a kind of light language,
Mm.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I understand that.
Mm.
Let me,
I think you were hearing some of the language of the angels, at least because it awakened with your angelic name.
yes, yes, true, true. So
And by the
speaking,
way, thank you for being a good student. Please, everybody, do read all 5 chapters before you go to chapters. Everybody wants their name, and I get it, but I want you to remember your name accurately. So read the 5 chapters before. Hopefully, they're fun, and then go for your name in chapter 6.
yeah, I can vouch for that because sometimes when you're reading books and you want to get to the juicy bit, the
Yes.
meditation or whatever, it can seem like a bit dry and a bit of a chore,
Right.
but it isn't. It
Okay.
flows, you take us through beautifully, I thought. So
Mm,
while
thank
we're talking about the meditation and the connection and how the angels come to you, can you tell the story in the book? You spoke about Robert.
you. Yes.
And I just thought that really made me quite emotional. I just thought how narrow-minded we are to think that the angels aren't there for everybody. Of course
Yeah.
they are, but it was just really profound for me. So for him, it must have been incredible. But yeah, tell us about Robert.
Ah, you already got into chapter 11. I love it.
I finished
Oh, girl, Liz,
yesterday.
you
Yesterday
are.
I finished.
I did write the book for you. Robert, it's my favorite story in the book. And
Mm.
I just made a note to invite Robert. I have an LA launch party. If you're in LA, I have a free launch party at a beautiful ashram. And I need to invite Robert. So it's the 21st. I don't know if this is airing before that, but Robert is profound. Robert is a friend of mine. He happens to be a 6 foot, probably 6'3", 6'4" 300 pound solid muscle ex-con, ex-murder. Well, not ex, he's former murder. I met Robert in the desert. He has an extraordinary story. So Robert's story is in the chapter on the Christ consciousness, which has nothing to do with any particular religion. To me, the Christ consciousness goes through all pure religions, right? So Robert was a murderer. He was a drug dealer, had been a drug dealer, and he had at least one life sentence. So he assumed he'd be in prison for the rest of his life. But in prison, he became a Christian, and he started working with this profound work called the Inner Circle Foundation, where they did this amazing work. I met Robert in the desert 6 months after. Well, let me tell you about Robert first, and then I'll tell you why I met him. So Robert was, as mentioned, he'd been in solitary confinement for 6 years because Robert was a very hardened prisoner. He'd been in prison for over 25 years at this point.
Yeah.
Robert now, though, had really turned his life over, and he there was another prisoner who was going to murder him. I don't know what the beef was, but pretty severe. And so Robert told his mentor that this man was coming to murder him, this prisoner, that night. And the mentor said, and he said, "What should I do? I don't want to murder again, but I don't want to be murdered either." And the mentor said, "Meditate on it." Robert meditated. In the meditation, an angel came to him and showed him that the prisoner would come to kill him, and he would stretch out his arms like Jesus on the cross and surrender, meaning he would absolutely surrender and not kill again. Well, the prisoner came to his cell, and Robert did just that. Imagine the courage. He went, enough killing, no more hate, and he stretched out his arms and surrendered, fully expecting the man to I didn't even know they had weapons in prison. They absolutely do, fully expecting that that would be his last breath. And well, because it was like Grace was waiting and watching, and because Robert did what the angel told him, which is always what God told him, the prisoner looked at him and they talked it out. They talked it out and they resolved things. And Robert ended up getting improbably put on parole, where I met him 6 years later. I'm sorry, 6 months later in the desert. I was alone with him. I was at a workshop with Byron Katie, who's a thought leader, and these ex-cons. It was all ex-cons. And Robert told me his story, and he was my dog, which is your protector in prison. You pick a dog in this workshop. And I realized I was sitting there alone in the desert. We'd gone out to talk, and I was sitting there alone in the desert with a former murderer, ex-con who'd barely been out of prison. And I was not afraid at all. I was sitting in the calm of a storm that had long passed. And I said to Robert, what's it like? What's it like to be out after 25 years? And he said something really remarkable. He said, well, it's great, of course, but really it's all an inside job. So what's the difference?
That just after all that guy's been through, that is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I invited him. I was doing this. I was a keynote speaker for this big event opened by Moby, the musician, and I invited Robert. And people are like, "Oh, are you sure that's going to be okay?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I invited Robert. He bought his first tie of his life. I walked him down the red carpet, all these photographers and everything, and he said he was so cute. He said, "I feel like Cinderella." I said, "Except you're not going back. Like this is your life now."
That's just
And he's
so
still in touch.
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
he's
really
still in
is,
touch.
and it just shows you with teamwork. So Byron Katie, I'm a massive fan of hers. I think her work is just
Yes.
fantastic, and she does do a lot of work in prisons and things, doesn't she? She's very proactive with that.
Yeah,
Amazing, amazing woman, and amazing. The work is just incredible, isn't it?
it is.
What she's
Yeah,
discovered.
yeah, yeah.
So that, and then the fact just meditate on it and to surrender like that.
To surrender like that, it's once we really follow our calling and we choose love against all odds, our life changes and magic starts to occur. And it's not like we can't go, oh, great. I was loving, where's my reward? It's more like I was loving, and that is my reward.
Yeah.
And grace enters in the most fantastic ways.
Yeah, it's proven there. It was, yeah, it blew my mind, that story. I just really loved it. I read it a couple of times because I was just like, wow, that
Yeah.
is just the most real turnaround.
Yes, and it's 100% true story. I mean, all of the stories are, by the way. Some of the names are changed because people are whatever corporate executives or whatever, but all of the stories are true, and that's what happens with angels. Miracles. Yeah, I'm going to make sure Robert comes because my party, he'll like it. It's got the red carpet again and all that. And he got to spend time with his parents before they died. He got married. He's written a book.
Wow.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really lovely. And that's really lovely to invite him along. I think that'd be
Of
amazing.
course.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Which ashram?
It's called Peace Awareness Labyrinth and Gardens, and it's in Midtown LA, and it's a 200-year-old mansion and gardens. And what I love about it is it's a blend of Eastern and West. Do you know, my big passion again is like, can we stop arguing about God?
Mm,
Like, it's all God. It's just that God comes to you in this way and God comes to you in that way. It's all God. Or God comes to you through nature and that is your God. Where's the argument? There's no argument.
I know. And it's so sad that it
Oh,
causes so much argument and dysfunction and war, and yeah, it
Yeah.
is, it's heartbreaking. Was
That's what
that,
I like about angels is they're through all the religions. I mean, even New Age spirituality, even non-religions.
yeah, it is. They do. They cross everybody.
Hmm.
So there's that common denominator, isn't there?
Yeah.
So was that the ashram that you went to in your
Yes.
20s? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very full circle. I was living in that ashram at 23. And then I lived there for a couple of 2, 3 years. And then I moved out and lived my life. And then I actually went back there. So I'm sitting in Pacific Palisades. You probably heard of the Palisades fire.
Hmm. Yeah.
And my home, the angels saved my home. It's a whole story because I watched the fire start out my kitchen window. And but I was displaced for almost a year, and I was in all kinds of Airbnbs, and then I ended up living at that ashram again. And my son too, ended up moving in with me and living in that ashram because he was living with me because he was in graduate school, but at very close to the same age where I lived there initially.
Amazing. It's funny, isn't it, how things come round like that?
Full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this one and see what you think. There's a lot of talk about in our worlds that how energies are shifting, there's big changes coming in, new dimensions. What's your take on that?
I think we're in a very, very prolific and unique, pivotal time. Yes, we can, you know, there's a lot of hopefulness. As I mentioned, I have this launch event on Saturday, and Sonia Choquette is one of my guests. And she's been teaching meditation, been teaching intuition for 50 years. And and I'm for myself 35 years, and we both have the same experience that there's so much more light on the planet. Yeah, I know it's a little rough around the edges. There's a lot going on. Fair enough. But there's also much more light. People, I don't think I could have shared this book 20, 30. I don't know if I could have shared it 10 years ago. I don't think
No,
people would
I
have been
don't think you
ready.
could. No, I agree.
No. And now I'm sharing it even with corporations. And I spoke at a global economic summit. That's about as left brain as you can get. And I'm like, great, I'm going to talk angel to these bankers. And they were completely open. Such one of my most receptive audiences. And um, so people are ready. I share things like, you are an archangel in the flesh and you can open to your archangelic consciousness. Then I expect this like hook to pull me off the stage, you know. And instead, what I get is so far, Jill, every single person has been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, really? I thought it was going to sound weird. Yeah, it is weird, but it makes sense and it resonates. I don't, and it's because we're in this time where people are experiencing, higher dimensions and higher realms of light and intuition. And you can go into a 7-Eleven and end up in a conversation about clairvoyance. I mean, it's really quite there's really a lot of reasons to be hopeful for this
Yeah,
time.
I think so. I own a metaphysical shop and
Oh,
I get a
where?
lot
What city?
in Ripon, North Yorkshire, here in the UK.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I get a lot of people, more so this last couple of years, coming in that I'm just starting on this path. And all ages, they're
Mm-hmm.
not, they're ranging from, like you get little tots coming in, they're starting with the crystals, they want to look at them, they want to, they're drawn to them.
Yeah.
Right the way through to people who are older,
Uh-huh.
that it's like something's just clicked, something's switched on. And but I've noticed with the younger ones, you'll know what I mean by this, but it's happening a lot faster for them
Yeah.
than it did for us.
Yeah. It is. Agreed. Well, because they're standing on our shoulders. There's the 100th monkey syndrome where it's like we stand on each other's shoulders and then a critical mass is achieved and then we break through as a collective and that makes it easier for everybody who comes after us.
Of course,
It's
yeah.
like with this precept, like it felt like breaking through a wall for me, one to bring the information through myself, But then it was a very lonely path for quite a while, right? And then I went, and then I was it's about it was about a year ago. I was feeling discouraged. I mean, the book was supposed to launch last year, and then the Palisades fire happened, and you know, my full-time job became dealing with insurance and et cetera. Um, and I was laying there on my bed, and I'm like, listen, I realized, oh my God, this very solitary path for me, if I can help others know they are not alone, they're not crazy, what they're seeing is real, and that we're walking, to paraphrase Ram Dass, we're walking each other home. Like if one person gets that, it will have been worth it for me to have walked this and to kind of have broken that wall, if you will, as it'll make it easier for others to go through. And until the wall is down, and then angels can cross through and people, humans can cross through, and we're in more of a golden age. The sign of the Aquarian age is angels. The sign of Aquarius is angels.
Of course, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's so true that we've got to that point where the light is coming through, the people are coming through, the people are sort of raising, and people like yourself are becoming more, well, just by being authentic and sharing your story, then that opens for other people to be authentic. To feel, people feel, I think, as a sensitive, you can feel a story. You can
Mhm.
feel if it's real or not, can't you? You know, you can
Yeah.
feel if somebody's like, oh, just run this off and like, oh yeah, this happened, and you're like, well,
Right.
did it?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
I think where when people have the courage to stand up, to be
Mhm.
authentic in this world, then I think that is also having that ricochet effect that, oh, well, they're doing it, so I will. So they're doing
Yeah.
it, so I will. And
Yeah.
then it becomes, and I think it's getting, well, like you in the Vogue magazine, it's getting more mainstream now. People are still calling us woo-woo and like,
Yeah.
oh, what are they on or whatever, but they still want to know.
Hmm.
They still inquire. Like my shop is, I have a love affair with India. So
Beautiful.
I just adore it. So we first went just under 30 years ago, and then I've had the shop 10 years. So the last 8 years we've been going every year to get
Oh.
because we have our clothes made out there and
Oh.
other things. Yeah. So my passion for India is just really strong. So the shop is very Indian based as well because I get a lot of things made, a lot of different things made
Uh-huh.
that people don't generally see here.
Right,
And
right.
when people come in, you get that mix. Like today, somebody came in and went, they like look around and you can see they're inquisitive, but they're uncomfortable. And then she turned to a friend and went, it's very mystical in here, isn't it? Which really made me laugh. But you get the people who don't see it,
Yeah.
who just come in and go, oh, it's one of those shops, and
Right.
they go out.
Hmm.
But then you get people that come in and they're just fascinated by it, and
Hmm.
so they get that pull, don't they? And I think it's that gateway of helping, like you say, helping people over, like, this is it. There's nothing to be scared of here. There's only one thing that we all aim for, and that's the love, isn't it? Because
Hmm.
that's all there
Hmm.
truly is. At the
Yes.
end, nothing else exists, does it?
Right. No. Yeah, absolutely. And um, there a presence just came through, so I'm just allowing that. I call that a divine pause. Um, so it's beautiful, like you, very fair skinned blonde, very enamored with India, and as mentioned, I'm half Indian, and the thing is our world is very much becoming so much more a melting pot. Like you can see the blending of the races. Like when my mother and father are married, and in rural Indiana with my mother, very fair skinned, very platinum blonde, my father, dark Indian. Um, it was very not accepted, and the Ku Klux Klan would bang on our windows, and And my mother would say, get down, and she would push us down behind the seat. And I, being the little rebel that I am, like would stand up and just glare. I wasn't afraid. I was mad. I was like, what are you doing? You know, we're human beings just like you. We need to come together. And so that's just to say how much our world truly has evolved. You know, that there's so much more inclusivity and diversity. And if you think, well, if angels, an entirely different creation, can merge with humans and we can experience that bridging in our own ancestry in that, then I think that it's a smaller leap for the world to come together, cultures and races and religions and paths to come together and go, you know what? We're all one.
Yeah, it's true. And we're getting to that, thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I've loved chatting to you now.
Oh,
Before we go, um, in your words, why should somebody read your book?
I'm going to let the angels answer that if that's okay.
Hmm.
So this is the Archangel Gabriel. Read the book so you can remember how magnificent you truly are. You think you can't be trusted with celestial magnificence beyond your wildest imaginings. But the you that thinks that can't be trusted. But the you that knows the truth of that can absolutely be trusted because it is God moving through you, reminding you you are so much more than flesh, so much more than the body, than the mind, than what's in your bank account, than your next desire. Who you truly are is eternal and infinite. You read the book to remember who you are beyond the clouds, beyond the heavens, beyond identity. To remember that you were born the beloved of God, one with the divine. You see, the you that knows the truth of that will read the book and receive it on a different level than the you that doubts and wonders if you're worthy. Worthiness is not even relevant, for you are made of the same stuff of the angels, the archangels, and ultimately of God. And it's time for you to claim your place in the kingdom of heaven on earth.
Beautiful. Absolutely perfect. And what a wonderful, wonderful end. So I'm going to get this edited quick smart because you've got an event on Saturday, haven't you, with
Yes.
Sonia, with, I've forgotten
Andrew
this.
Harvey.
Oh,
Andrew
lovely.
Harvey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wonderful. Robert Holden.
Yeah. Oh, he's amazing
He,
too.
he is. And Marie Diamond.
Perfect. Ooh,
Right.
I'm
Yeah. And
signed up for that. So I'm going to put the
oh,
link
good.
in. So yeah, so
Thank
people
you.
can see that. And
Yeah.
also the link to your book. So,
Thank you.
oh no, thank you so much for
Mm.
joining me. I've absolutely loved it. I loved the book.
Oh,
And
thank you. And thank you for reading it. And yes, I
yeah,
did write it for you.
you
And
did.
I'll look forward. I hope we can meet someday if I'm in England or
I would
you're
love
in
that.
Los Angeles.
I would love that. Alicia,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.